G'day, Ziggy here, and welcome back for some more Path of Exile. In this video, I want to give you guys a bit of an introduction to Elemental Spectral Throw, or Elemental Buzzsaw builds, and basically talk a little bit about the leveling for them and how easy they are to level. So, I kind of missed the boat on patch 1.0, back when this was all the rage, but although Spectral Throw was nerfed a little bit, it's actually steadily become stronger and stronger and stronger, and right now, it's basically at the point it was in patch 1.0. Very strong, very cheap, very effective build or playstyle to do. The idea of Elemental Buzzsaw builds is to use auras, so traditionally it was Wrath and Anger, to put out as much flat elemental damage as possible, and then to scale it with enormous attack speed and with weapon elemental damage scaling or elemental damage scaling. This was very effective, though some nerfs it got a little bit less effective, but recently we've had things such as Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice added back into the game, which add more flat damage. And building these four things, these Anger, Wrath, Herald of Lightning, Herald of Ice, you can get enormous amounts of damage with white gear. Like, I can actually use a white weapon just here, and I'll show you. I bought this weapon. This is like a really nice Elemental Buzzsaw weapon right here. And my DPS with it is 5,386. With a white 1.7 attack speed rapier, my DPS is 3,600. Not that much lower. Definitely passable. Like, I can clear maps with this, and I have done that a little bit in the past. Let's jump into docks and kill some things with this white rapier just here. That is because we actually worked it out, and it's something like 87% of my damage currently comes from auras. Like, I am not getting all that much damage from my actual gear. So as you can see, I can more than easily clear, like, even single target against a rare like that with less than multiple projectiles, Spectral Throw, exceptionally effective. And I didn't go out and buy like any fancy higher leveled auras. I just am using Wrath and Anger. I'm using an Alpha's Howl now, but I leveled without an Alpha's Howl, obviously, and it was exceptionally effective. I have to say this has probably been one of the smoothest, fastest, easiest leveling experiences I've had. And all I did was used very inexpensive leveling gear. I used a gold rim just to make my resistances easier, so I didn't have to switch out too much other jewelry and stuff. I initially just used whatever fast attack speed swords or one-handed weapons I found. So anything with like 1.55, 1.7 attack speed, anything like that I used, regardless of the stats. If I could get attack speed or something like that on it, then that was fine. If I could get some bonus elemental damage, that was fine. And then once I got to a high enough level to use Brightbeak, which is only level 20, I used Brightbeak pretty much all the way until level 60 something. So Brightbeak is actually exceptionally effective. The reason being it's got 1.95 attack speed. That's basically all you need. You don't really need anything else. You just need fast attack speed in a build like this. So let me go ahead and show you. I actually kind of basically leveled like this with Leaf Slam and Brightbeak. Just running, I ran Anger and Herald of Ice, because the reason being is with my particular passive tree I ended up having more strength and intelligence than I had dexterity I had strength and dexterity more so than intelligence. I was struggling a little bit on intelligence, so I just used, if I take off Anger just here, no wait, I used Anger, I take off Wrath just there, and I used Herald of Ice instead of Herald of Thunder. So this is basically the setup I used damage-wise for leveling, and this was very effective with just a Brightbeak, and that's basically all I used for damage. And even now, I'm sure I could kill things in docks with this much damage just here. Yeah, that's fine. That's like not really that much of a problem. Still possible for sure. But it was excellent for leveling up, and I basically was using a setup like this until I picked up a few more of the aura nodes. I'll give you guys a link to the spreadsheet for this build's passive tree and all that jazz, and I'll try and give you guys some leveling trees. And basically, as I picked up some aura nodes, I would just like chuck on another aura, and whenever that happened, I'd get another massive boost in damage just there. So very effective. So a few items I used. Prism Weave cost me an alchemy orb. It has some flat elemental damage on it. It has some all resist, which is nice for leveling, and then it has 40% total weapon elemental when you're using a flask. Now, while you're leveling, you're pretty much always using usually quicksilvers. You're always popping quicksilvers, and I'll just pop those constantly in combat. And let's see, when I use my granite just here, I'll switch this out for you guys. So DPS is 3,200 there. When I pop the granite, goes up to 3,460, so that gives you an extra 30% weapon Ellie. So this was a pretty nice belt, and I used this all the way into like level 60 or so as well, and again, really cheap. I also used 1,000 ribbons for like the first 30 or 40 levels, and it also cost about an alch, and it's just basically got a little bit of resist, a little bit of life, a little bit of flat damage just there. So it was very easy, and that was fine until I got myself like just a cheap 5 link, which cost me like 2-3 chaos, I think. So very, very, very effective there. And then being able to use Brightbeak, which is like a 1 Alch to 1 Chaos item, I was very impressed with how smooth the leveling experience was for this character overall. Now, I leveled with specific uniques like Brightbeak and Goldrim and Prism Weave and all that, but you could just as easily do this with self-found gear in a new league as well. As I said, just looking for rapiers, something like this, just here, has some weapon elemental damage and some attack speed. That's all you need. And you'll find these just pick up, and whenever you see like a rare foil drop, or whenever you see a rare rapier or a rare one-handed sword drop, pick that up. If it's got attack speed and some elemental damage on it, then you're good to go. Whenever you get something that's a little bit faster, a little bit higher elemental damage total, then you're good to go. The most important stat is attack speed, followed by increased elemental damage with weapons, followed by flat elemental damage. Since most of your damage comes from auras, it's just about putting out and multiplying that damage as much as possible. That's why a weapon like this is actually pretty damn effective, and you can see that's, you know, that's not too bad just there. Now, the next tip I have for you guys, if you are leveling if you want to level really, really easily with you have a bit of gear saved up, or you have access to a leveled up Elrond, you can actually buy this Elrond jewelry just here. Now, I used these three just here, -7, -7, and -6 mana cost of skills. Wearing all three of these and using Goldrim to offset the elemental resistances, basically I had 0 mana cost on all my skills. Nothing costs any mana, so I was able to just level with pure damage supports, as many as I wanted, without worrying about any mana costs whatsoever, and I reserved all of my mana with auras and was able to maximize that damage just there. Like, if I could fit in another Herald of Ice, for example, but max out my mana and have no mana left, didn't matter because all my skills cost 0 mana cost. So I used those up until about level 50 to 60, and then I switched to a Blood Magic gem once I bought that cheap 5 link, and I ran 2 pieces of Elrond jewelry, so I dropped the amulet and put on a better amulet, and then just to like boost my resistances, boost my defensive power a little bit there, and then I was able to just rely on just the 2 rings to offset like my movement ability. For example, like my leap slam or my whirling blades, that was able to offset that just fine. And then eventually, once I got my final gear set up, I put everything on Blood Magic, and it's been working brilliantly ever since. The other leveling item I wanted to draw attention to is Crest of Perandus. This has some life on it, has some lightning resist, has very high block chance for a low level shield, and you can actually use this well into maps. I'm still using this now in level 70 maps, and it's just fine. Eventually I'll find a better shield, but for now it's fine. It also has 3% life leech on it, which once you switch to Blood Magic, even with an elemental weapon that doesn't have any physical damage on it, is still enough to help offset with a little bit of regen the costs of the Blood Magic skills. And at the moment, my regen almost offsets it, but I still lose life just a little bit, but the 3% life leech gives me just enough life back when I hit enemies to keep my life up all the time when I'm using my skills. So it's a pretty nice item to use. So just a few more tips about progressing through the passive tree. In terms of where I went to Shadow first because there's some nice projectile speed and some life in there. So I grabbed that stuff, I got a little bit of attack speed, a little bit of elemental damage, and then basically this was the start, just to give me a bit of raw power at the start. From there though, I rushed through and got the Aura Nodes for Templar, then I grabbed the Aura Nodes for here, and that was able to allow me to, with just a reduced mana, like leveling up as I was leveling, run 3 auras, so run a 60% aura and 2 heralds. And then later run 2 60% auras and 1 herald. So that was able to give me kind of that raw damage that I needed. Getting those auras running as quickly as possible is essential. Then once I had those, I got Inner Force, which is a nice damage boost there. And from there, I basically just filled things out. As I was heading up to this aura cluster, so very early on, just after getting the shadow area, I grabbed Resolute Technique right away. You get 5% chance to crit without Resolute Technique, because you're not spending anything into crit in this build. So dropping Resolute Technique for losing that 5% chance to crit is really a non-issue, because the amount of accuracy you gain more than offsets that damage by a great margin. And then just after that, you can grab Celestial Punishment and Elementals, which gives you 10% total chance to Freeze, Shock, and Ignite. So that more than offsets like the crit chance. Like you only had 5% chance for status elements before, which means proccing Herald of Thunder. Now you have 10% once you pick up those 2 nodes. So progression through the tree was really easy. It's actually kind of pretty hard to screw up progressing through this tree. You could almost head in any direction, though I wouldn't recommend filling out the bottom of Ranger first, because it's not as essential to the build. Basically, if you rush for Resolute Technique and Aura Nodes, grabbing a little bit of life along the way, you're going to be golden. So guys, I really do think that Elemental Buzzsaw is back in full strength. This has been, as I said, one of the smoothest leveling experiences I've had, and smoothest map progressions as well. I jumped into 66 maps at 65, and basically just smashed through them, no problems whatsoever. Like, I didn't have to spend all that much on gear. My entire gearing setup, I had some cash lying around, so my entire gearing setup all up cost something about 2 exalts, maybe a little bit less, and I was able to basically jump into 66 maps, progress all the way through, and I started doing 71 maps with basically no time spent grinding at all. I just kind of, like, as I leveled, I just progressed up and through the map system. So it's been incredibly smooth. I'm really, really impressed with how effective this playstyle is still, like, this far after patch 1.0 when Spectral Throw was added, and since when this was the meta. We see a few people playing Elemental Buzzsaw and crit Elemental Buzzsaw, which Buzzsaw is arguably not crit at all, but crit Spectral Throw setups like this have become more popular, and we're seeing some low life ones and stuff like that. But just your 1.0, your patch 1.0 super meta life-based Elemental Buzzsaw character with Resolute Technique is still very, very effective in 1.3, and I would say even touching on its glory days of 1.0. Alrighty guys, hopefully you enjoyed this first look at my Elemental Buzzsaw character. I'll give you guys some more updates. I have a few other things I want to cover, like for example, getting your end game Elemental Buzzsaw weapon, and also setting up your gear set for Elemental Buzzsaw once I've kind of got a few more things optimized. I still have to work on my jewelry, for example, but most of the other things are going well, and I'll give you guys some more guides on this over time as I progress this character. If you've got any questions about the leveling though, feel free to ask in the comments below. That's it for now. I'm Ziggy D, and thanks for watching.